environment that will nurture the growth, a world of interfaith peace. In solidarity with one another, we affirm.
Our dialogue is an interfaith dialogue. We all have different communication styles and varying views. We commit to be in dialogue with respect for all, expanding listening to hear multiple points of view.
We realize that we are responsible for the growth of I4C, and each of us shares a duty to interfaith growth. The governing board provides leadership, and the elected council works towards progress and the fulfillment of I4C goals as we grow.
We recognize that we are imbued with interfaith responsibility. As such, we commit to hold ourselves and each other accountable to merit that trust, respect for the diverse traditions, beliefs, and spiritual paths of all those we encounter, hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards, and accountable to our communities and to I4C.
Our shared time is interfaith time. We commit to honoring the start and the end times each time we meet. It is our hope that this living document, which as we grow in knowledge and awareness, will be reviewed and updated regularly, that it may bring out our commitments to each other and all we serve in every interaction with sacred regard for one another and for all life.
Thank you. Then we'd like to do an opening reading that Randy Thomas has agreed to do with us. Randy.
Thank you, Carolyn. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Morning, Randy.
The reading I have chosen to share this morning does not make me feel comfortable. Originally, I had selected a rather safe, highbrowed reading about spirituality and contemplation, and how this is the best way to address the problems of injustice, violence, and racism in our country and the world. I have been active on Facebook, expounding and supporting this approach. In an exchange of Facebook postings with my friend Margaret Niles, a member on this council and governing board, she has tried to keep me honest and real about this by challenging me to re-examine my words, meaning, and deeper understanding of what Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Are Sacred means to me. I thought I had listened and responded in ways that really expressed what I understood about the central meaning of these words. I did not fully realize that Margaret was challenging me to go deeper still, to pierce the comfort zone of my heart and mind, my hidden prejudices and presumptions, to enter more directly into the pain, suffering, and violence that our Black brothers and sisters experience every day and have for the past 400 years in this country. I was drawn to read this article this morning, which I'll give you a reference to, and it broke open my heart that was already immersed in anger, grief, and outrage. It made me feel even more uncomfortable. And I believe that this is the point, to more deeply enter into the deep, pervasive wounds of racism, allowing our hearts to be pierced and the cocoons of our comfort zones to break open, to better listen, respond, engage, envision, explore, conspire together in communion and solidarity with our Black brothers and sisters for ways of healing, reconciliation, restoration, and transformation of our existing systems and structures, our legal systems, our governance of our country, to forge more equality, justice, freedom, and peace for all. The article I want to refer the council to is titled, "I Am Black. This is what I need and what I don't want from white allies." It's located in elephantjournal.com. And I'll just read a quote from the writer here. She's Puerto Rican. Her name, I'm gonna not get it right. Iojima Alujo. The beauty of anti-racism is that you don't have to pretend to be free of racism to be an anti-racist. Anti-racism is the commitment to fight racism wherever you find it, including in yourself. And it's the only way forward.
Randy, if you send me that article, a copy of it, I will forward it to everybody.
Okay, will do.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was wonderful. Let's see. I have to move on to minutes, but I hope you got a copy of it. But in particular, because we didn't have time last time to share them, I hope you got to see the minutes of all the groups, of what the groups, we had a great dialogue on community collectively, how we can help, what are things we can do, and we didn't have time last time to share it. So I wanted to make sure that you saw that in the minutes. So please check out the minutes. Did anybody have any changes on them?
I had a couple of questions at least, Carolyn. In the
Okay,
faith reflection, what
yes.
does the large ND stand for? So maybe.
Oh, that's a typo. That's what that is.
Okay.
Typo. Thank you.
Then I had one other question. About 2 lines down from there, the sentence reads, "They do not believe in external damnation." Is it really external or is it eternal?
All right, Robert Collins needs to answer that because those are just my notes.
Robert, you want to, chime in there and give us an opinion?
Please state the question again. I didn't hear you clearly.
I'm sorry.
In our minutes, I haven't been struck by lightning. In our minutes, kind of a couple sentences up from the bottom of the minutes on your part on faith reflection, it says, "They do not believe in external damnation." And I wondered whether that was eternal damnation or external.
I
think it's eternal damnation.
typo.
Yeah.
My typo. Good catches. Yeah, he reads them. Wow. Yay. All right. Any other changes, you feel free to send them to me. Let's see. I wanted to go on to the reports. The big deal is that is winter nights. And Judy, you're on. You want to tell everybody the big news is you've now become your own 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Yes, I'll be glad to share that. We became our own 501c3 in May. We applied to the IRS, that's who you have to get it from. And we anticipated 6 to 8 months, which would have been September, October. And they acted quickly, maybe because people are, I don't know, we were thinking maybe because of the coronavirus and people were working from home or something, I don't know. Anyway, we're delighted that we have our own 501c3 and we're moving forward. We are working, Carol and I are working on a new office, and that will be right down the hall from the Interfaith Council, still at Hillcrest Church in room 7. And we'll be finishing most of the details by July 1st. Winter Nights closed May 4th because of the virus, and because we had folks in shelter for 6 weeks without any volunteers. And we just had our folks dwindle down, and we put all families found housing except 2, and we were able to put those 2 in motels, and now the county has taken over that responsibility as of June 15th. And so, but the news for us is that we got funding from 3 different sources for expenses during COVID. So that covered the motels that we paid for. It also covered some of the meals that we had to pay for because we had to have dinners brought in. It's also paid for some staff. We opened up the parking lot program and just closed that. And two of those people, we haven't generally had this success, but two of those people have found housing from the parking lot program. So we're hoping that we can continue that next year. We'll do that with enough finances. We will open in September. We may have to shelter in place, which means, again, no volunteers, but we'll make those decisions later in August. We do have two openings, one in October and one in December. And if anybody has a congregation that would like to host, for the one in October is 2 weeks, the one in December is 1 week. And if anybody has any congregations who would like to think about volunteering to do that, please get in touch with me. Maybe you can put my email up on the next website, or next time we send something to somebody. And we also, if you volunteer to be a host, and that means you have space enough, and we may narrow it down to just 4 families, but we like to have 9. And if you volunteer to be a host, we will help you with getting co-hosts. And co-hosts are people that come in and help provide food and that sort, and activities and other things. So we are working toward our independence. It's taken a whole lot of energy, and we appreciate everybody at Interfaith Council who has helped us do this. And that means I will no longer be on the elected council. So I hereby resign. And thank you, Interfaith Council, for all the wonderful, wonderful support that we have had in the past. And we have grown exponentially in the last couple of years. And so it is, with very mixed emotions that we go out on our own. But I think it's time, and we have very much gotten the support of the Interfaith Council, and we will still rely on them for some things. So we'll keep in touch, and maybe I'll be a visitor at the elected council sometime.
Well,
I hope so.
what we want to say is it's been such an honor to have Winter Nights come and launch into its own charity and be associated with you all these years. I was trying to remember how many years. I know Winter Nights started under SOJA, our Social Justice Alliance group. But Will or Judy, do you know how many years old now is Winter Nights?
It's 16.
16, yeah.
16.
And how many years have you served, Judy, as their executive director?
6. And that's as long as I've been on the I4C board and the elected council. And so it's time to move on and do some other things and let somebody else fill my slot. Anyway, yeah,
well,
thank you.
I just feel like you have been such a gentle, kind, and positive force in Winter Nights, and just as a part of our board. And so we will miss you, even though you're right down the hall. So we'll keep, and we know that you can come to us at any time for your needs, and we're going to reach out and find ways to help you.
Cool, thank you very much. Yeah, it is a continuing relationship, and we have lots of partners, and it's nice that I4C will continue to be one of them. We have been really blessed with some of the gifts that folks have given us in the way of money, individuals, congregations, and foundations. And so we are jumping into the deep end, and appreciate your support. So thank you very much. It's been a wonderful ride, and it will continue.
And I want you to know that we have a little gift that we will give you when we next get together for you and Bill for your new offices. And I wanted to open the floor for anyone else that wanted to give their blessings.
I wanted to share how important Winter Nights has been during my whole tenure with the Interfaith Council. I remember when I joined in 2004, conversation about the beginnings of Winter Nights, and Gwen Watson was just getting it started, and she was a trailblazer, and she and Brian Steinweber found congregations willing to host when the Orinda Library was not allowed to be used as a shelter, even though it was sitting empty. So it's been a constant witness to our community that the faith community is willing to jump in where there's the huge need, especially for families with children. And thank you, Judy, for your leadership over the years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Gary, go ahead. Unmute there. Can you unmute, Gary?
Click on your screen.
On your screen in the left-hand corner, there's a mute. You got to unmute. Maybe if
Also,
it's someone else while we wait.
Okay, good. Everyone
There
can
we are, Gary.
Thank you. Judy, just wanted to let you know from our faith community that the services you have provided have been invaluable. And I know in talking to people who have actually served there, those who have served gained as much reward and hearts overwhelming, in addition to those that have served. And I just wanted to share something with you as you forge your own path, and delightful that you are. Every year, cities and the county receive community development block grant funds. They're called CDBG, and they go to cities that are over 50,000 in population, and then the county has CDBG monies, and those are designed, and each city and the county go through a process to award those monies, and they are to help lower income and individuals in need. So you might search out that source. It's a competitive process.
Well, we already get CDBG.
Yeah, already using it, right?
Oh, you already do. Okay, well, welcome, Gary.
we get them from three different cities and from the county.
Oh, wonderful.
And we have a grant writer that's dedicated to that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, then you're way ahead of me. Thank you. Well, thank you for what you've done, Judy.
All right.
Carolyn, if I can just say a
Yes,
few
real
words.
quick there, Terry, go.
Yeah, I have enjoyed working with you, Judy, and working with Winter Nights, watching Winter Nights, and all of the volunteers at Winter Nights who are so deeply invested and committed to working with the homeless and processing people through from not just giving them a place, over the course of the winter, but processing them through so that they will go out and eventually, through that year, find their own place to live. And it's a wonderful way to support them in so many, individual ways, not just overnight and food, but, the education, tutoring, et cetera, that are given to people, driving them. It's a full, wholesome approach to trying to work with and support people. And I have been, very, very impressed always with your work and dedication, and that of Bill Shaw and all the others at Winter Nights. And it's been wonderful to work with you. And we have also watched your growth, and we knew that you guys were going to end up, just launching out on your own, because we could see it coming. And so congratulations. It's wonderful.
Thank you. I will say that the volunteers are people who absolutely love being part of Winter Nights, and the ones who didn't get to do it the last 6 weeks when we were sheltered in place, where they missed having that interaction, and the clients missed not having that interaction. So that's a very valuable resource, and people love to volunteer. And it's not a permanent thing. It's a let's do it and do it en masse. And we have between 3,000 and 4,000 volunteers a year. So we'll hope we can get back into that.
Yep.
Thank you.
I just wanted to quickly add a thank you to Judy for your steadfastness, your commitment, your persistence over the years that I've known you. And I know that you've continued to guide a really important mission that's helped so many people. And I wanted to thank you for your vision and for your persistence.
Wow.
What a surprise this is.
Eric?
I'd like to jump in. I'd like to jump in
go
at
ahead.
just one thing. Judy, I have really enjoyed knowing you as a person, okay? And I know that isn't going to end. I'm excited to see you kind of go on a new path for Winter Nights, but I hope that you will stay in touch with us. I do have one question for you. Does COVID mean that the churches have to have a bigger space for winter nights?
Well, that's a really good question. We are going back and forth with a lot of things, and the space we have that congregations have, it's big enough, and we may say, okay, we can only do 4 families, and we'll give them bigger tents. And but that's just an option. We would like to have things go back to normal, but we all know that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
So
I'm afraid. Yeah.
and it depends on if there's still shelter in place, and if there is, we won't have volunteers again. And the staff works very, very, very hard to make things happen in a good way. So thank you for that question, but I don't think I have an answer.
Yeah, no one does. No,
It's all going to take time to sort out.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to move us on, but please feel free to send Judy notes. And like I say, we're going to still be here for her and for winter nights. I wanted to mention the juvenile chaplaincy. Julius isn't on, but that we had a good meeting yesterday with Margaret Niles and Julius and Channing and Terry Moss and myself, brainstorming on ways that we can better support Julius. And Margaret Niles has agreed to champion that effort with Julius, and we're coming up with ideas. And so we'll have a lot more to share with you, but everything from, efforts to get laptops and iPads to these kids that need them so they can continue their schooling and tech needs after they leave detention, to the card writing effort that we have now, to mentorship programs, to e-tattoo removal, figuring out ways that we can do that or can support that, to helping them with education. All kinds of ideas are on the table, right, Margaret?
Absolutely. And Julius was really palpably excited. I mean, it was just really beautiful to see his receiving of the energy and the care and the support and the curiosity, I would say, of us and how we can support him in different ways moving forward that will ignite some change and some support and some love for these young people. So especially young people of color. I mean, it's time. So really exciting.
Yeah, we're expect to hear a lot more as that starts to gel together with new ways we can help support Julius. Also, you already received the email on Channing soliciting opening heart articles. Gosh, we thought that beautiful example of Nagar's Sufism group and the Latter-day Saints, Gary and Kim and Rebecca's efforts to do a food drive is such a wonderful example, and that's a story we want to share. But to send more of these ideas to Channing, Liz. I think what she sent you all an email asking for that, so we can get these good stories out into our community. Is that enough, Channing?
Thank
Did I
you.
hit all the key points?
It's
Good.
called Perfecto, yes.
Great. So I wanted to move on to leave time for Terry Moss, because Terry also has a really exciting proposal for us all. And I want to leave time. We need to start our dialogue by 9:15, Terry, but I want to give the floor to you until then to talk about a new movement she wants to start called ICARE. Go for it, Terry.
Great, thank you. I won't be taking notes.
Okay, I will.
Hopefully I'll remember what I said. So we, in some ways, inspired by two efforts. One is the Nagar and Gary combined interfaith project of the food bank and food drive that ended up in donations to the food bank. That was very inspiring to us. The winter nights experience over the last years showing interfaith, multi-faith efforts to help those who are in less fortunate situations also inspired us to come up with a new program that we're going to be launching called ICARE. And it also derived from the conversations that we had last month, where people broke into small groups to talk about ways that we could help our community. The idea behind ICARE, which stands for Interfaith Community Action Revitalization Program, the revitalization, we borrowed the R and the E just to make it work, poetic license, is really our hope program is that we want to increase interfaith cooperation and learning. We want to generate a measurable positive impact on our community, and we want to raise awareness of I4C in our community as sort of a natural fallout from that. But mostly it's taking our shared beliefs that we are, that part of our role in interfaith and as faith communities is to help those in need. And so what this is basically a sort of like an eHarmony for social action. It is matching up volunteers and congregations, our member congregations, and member individuals with projects that our nonprofit organization partners need. So it's a pretty simple concept. It doesn't mean that it'll be easy to roll out. Our hope is that we will launch a pilot project within the next month. And there's a lot of need out there. So really the challenge for us is to identify and limit the number of projects right now that we can do. But our initial thought was we've identified 4 or 5 organizations with room to grow. And I will be sending out a description of these organizations, and so that describes who they are and who they serve and some ideas of the kinds of projects and needs that they have. But just to give you an idea, well, one of them is Julius's, which is going to be one of the options of choices. The other is the Monument Crisis Center, Shelter Inc., who we have a contract with already to help. Another is Trinity Center. And there will be others down there. There might be an environmental group. So the idea is that what we would really love from you as ambassadors, you EC members as ambassadors to your congregations and as ambassadors for I4C, to let people know and help promote volunteerism when a call comes out, when we send something out. And one of the reasons I asked Anita Weil to join us is that she is a Temple Isaiah member. She's an IT whiz and operational guru. And she's looking into different software that would help us coordinate and the matching. So ultimately, and I, the details are sort of vague at this point because this is still very much a work in process, and we will be ironing out the issues as they come up. But we're hoping to launch a simple needs, addressing a needs project and matching up volunteers in the next month. And the role of the EC would be for you, all of you, whoever wants to step up and participate, tell your congregations, if you represent a congregation, about this opportunity. And ultimately, we will have a coordinator also between I4C and the nonprofit to make sure that the match takes place. But one really important aspect of this is that we're really encouraging and requiring, I guess you could say, and it'll just sort of naturally happen, an interfaith action. So an educated or enlightened or aware interfaith activity, meaning before anyone volunteers for these programs, we're going to ask you to receive an orientation by Will on interfaith communication, what it means to work in an interfaith environment, and that we think that that's a really important learning, along with what Randy was saying about being empathic and understanding and aware of what it's like to work in an interfaith setting with people who have shared beliefs, but similarities, but there are also differences, and to respect those differences and look and learn to understand more about those in a curious sort of way. So I hope I haven't complicated things. I wanted to just bring up this concept of this program so that you will look for it and hopefully engage in it and be excited about it. We want to be able to give tangibly to our community as a way of our small way of, as we say in the Jewish tradition, repairing the world. There's a lot of repairing that has to happen. And this is our way to start locally to do that. And I have 10 minutes for questions.
The floor to questions, yeah.
I'll just make a quick comment. Terry, this is precisely what the Interfaith Council should be doing. This is a natural extension of what we've been doing up until now. And I know that you and Biff and Channing have worked hard on, we're calling it development and communications, et cetera. But this outreach into the community and getting more and more people involved from more congregations in these type of volunteer activities where we're matching up projects with needs and volunteers simply spreads the word and deepens our involvement and support in and for the community. And I think it's a wonderful way to continue to extend ourselves. And I think it will work hand in glove with, the whole development process that the three of you have been working on.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah.
Judy, yes.
Yeah,
I have a question. Do you have specific projects for the three organizations? Not Julius, because I think there's some specifics there. Do you have specific projects there? And secondly, we should check with Diane Maltester because her congregation has something coming up this Sunday that's very much like this.
Oh, great. Yes, we do. I've asked Monument Crisis Center and Trinity Center specifically to email us a description of their services and their needs, and they've given that to us. And so, yeah, we'll be sending out those specifics, and that will change over time. And like if we do a project in November, that might be their needs may be very different. And we haven't worked out whether we're going to say this month or this week, this is the project that's available to do. But they have had no problem giving us very specific projects that they need to have done.
I think a key part of this is that we have champions from the elected council volunteering to help lead these efforts.
Right.
And to coordinate this interfaith effort by getting several different faith traditions together to work on this. So, it's, we're doing two things here. We're trying to get to know each other better and also to help our community. Mm-hmm. So we will be looking for volunteers. Yes, Diane.
So I don't even know where to begin, but I think I think this is great. I'm so excited. I just want to let everybody know, first of all, that we're having a mega donation event this Sunday from 1 to 3 at the First Christian Church in Concord. It's 3039 Willow Pass Road. Between 1 and 3, it's a drive-through donation. You do not get out of your car, put your donations in the trunk. We will have masks and gloves, and we're hoping you'll wear masks when you're there. And you're gonna drive through and go out the church parking lot. 3039 Willow Pass Road, 1 to 3.
Food? Is it food?
It is, it's everything. I think Will has it on our website, but
it's on our donations and volunteer page. So if you go to our webpage and you go to the COVID-19 link at the very top that's in the golden bar, if you scroll down to the volunteer and donation page, it's at the very top of that page. I'll copy and paste it and put it into the chat room for you.
So we are supporting 4 communities, nonprofits. One would be Share, which is on our campus, and that is a food pantry. And yes, we will take food for them. That's Share. The second is the North Concord Shelter, which serves the homeless. And right now they need different kinds
because they've been put in the hotels, they need things like coffee, ground coffee of any kind, books, something to read, color books, puzzle books, men's glasses, any kind of glasses, and men's belts, things like that. And there's a list in the article. We're also supporting Hope Solutions. Hope Solutions, which does the housing in Contra Costa County as well, and a group called First Place for Youth. This is a nonprofit that supports the foster children that have aged, I should say young adults, the children that have aged out of foster care. They have from 18 to 24 that they need help. They help them find housing and help them get on their feet in education. And that is the other group that we're supporting. 4 groups again are SHARE, North Concord Shelter, Hope Solutions, and First Place for Youth. I just can only embrace the thought of our working with Interfaith, coming together, sharing our resources, because so many of us are small communities, and by sharing we become one big glump of love.
Nice.
It's very exciting.
Margaret, I think, is trying to talk.
Terry, I had a question about the directional element of this project. There's very clearly we are coming up with projects related to organizations, and then asking the elected council to go into their congregations and try to connect. And I'm curious about if any of the elected council can go to their congregations and find out if there are specific communities like youth or the elderly that are limited in their mobility, but are interested in participating, whether an elected council can come to us as ICARE and say, hey, we have a group of 5 older people in our community who can't really go anywhere, but they really want to do something. Can you find something for us? And then we can, so is it multi-directional, or are we just going to try to?
Well, at this point, nothing is set in stone. Okay. And it's not, and I don't think anything ever will be set in stone.
Great.
Then we don't want to fail. And my concern about failure, in terms of failure, is biting off too much and making it too
complicated.
Complicated, exactly.
Okay.
So that's going to be my only watchword, is to try to keep it simple so that we can succeed. And I think that's especially true in the beginning.
Okay.
But I'm hoping that especially because of COVID and all of the different people that you're talking about who have limited mobility and don't want to go out into the community, that we can find multi-layers of ways to contribute. And I think once we start looking at what these organizational needs are, I think they will welcome ways that people of different levels of mobility can contribute. Mm-hmm. So, we'll find out, but I'm sure there's a lot of need out there. As we're hearing. So I'm always absolutely open to ideas, especially, or we should be, from the EC, because we want the EC involvement. We want all of our members. We have 108 congregations, and we want to get everybody involved, or as many people as involved, and we want to reduce any barriers to that involvement. Mm-hmm. So yes,
and to see each other in each other's congregation. So the youth in one congregation would be so excited to work with the youth of another congregation, or so that we open our mind, not close it.
For sure,
that's exactly what we're hoping.
I want to reinforce that Interfaith, working together as an interfaith community, is a really essential part. That's one of the unique things that we bring to this level of giving, is to not only contribute in a positive way to our community, but also to learn ourselves how to work in an interfaith way, and therefore even make our contributions stronger. And I want to make sure that everybody knows how important it is to learn from Will how to, as he would say, play better together. I think you say something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really going to be so enriching personally and also as a community, to show how we can work together as an interfaith community to improve everybody's lives.
Terry,
I just have
one aspect of this that I think is important. We've been hearing from the elected council, we want to find ways to get involved, ways to get engaged. This is your opportunity. As Carolyn said, we're looking for champions for these various projects. So we're looking to the EC to really step up and let Terry know you'd like to get engaged and be a champion and reach out to congregations. That's the key, and we're all going to get more out of this as people step up.
Yeah. Terry, I just had one comment to make, that as we engage in this process, that we listen to the voices that are already present within those communities we're going to connect with, and that have the humility to listen to them of things that's already emerging from their communities that we might learn, and assume a posture of humility that we might hear what they have to contribute, not that we know better or know best.
No, absolutely. Humility is not my strong suit. No, I'm working on it. No, I actually have a list of things from these different organizations that we've solicited. So they're definitely going to be driving what we do and how we do it. And they're very excited about that. There's no way that I would ever presume to know what they need. So
Celia, can we let Celia talk for a moment? Celia, you're on mute, Celia.
I wondered if you could share that list that you just held up.
We are going to share that with you all. It just, so this is new, and we're hoping that we work out a few of the kinks and then get it out to you all so we can start to get involvement. But so we're working on that.
So it's too soon to say anything, really.
Well, no, it's just that we wanted to give, it wouldn't make sense if I had sent out this list of nonprofit partner organizations without giving you the bigger context of what this new program is. So we wanted to introduce the new program. We wanted to let you know what the vision and concept is. But also we've already notified or invited these nonprofit organizations to send us a description of what their services are and what kind of needs specifically they would have. So we have that. That's what this is.
I'd like to see it if I might.
Well, for sure. No, I just can't. I needed to tell you all about it.
Of course, no question.
And then of course I'm going to send it out because I want you to see all the different organizations. And then my hope is that Anita will help us put together, say, I don't know if it'll be an Evite or Sign Up Genius or what it is. And it'll be a mix and matching. So we'll have all the organizations and what their needs are. We'll have a place for you to sign up. We'll have dates and, for these projects. So I'm making it up. September 15th, Monument Crisis Center, bring breakfast or sponsor a breakfast. I don't know what it'll be. And then a bunch of people will sign up for that. But they'll also have gone through an orientation with Will about, how to work in an interfaith way. That's kind of the vision of it. That's sort of the big picture of how it would work.
And we're really trying to get folks to be able to do work together from our different congregations on the same projects. It's really easy for our congregations to send a whole team, and it's easier for the larger congregations to do that. But for a lot of our smaller congregations, this will be a way for them to meet with the other volunteers that they can serve with, and while they're serving, learn about interfaith interactions with themselves and the people they're serving.
I have to cut this off because we won't have time for our interfaith dialogue, but I want you to know that Terry is going to be communicating with you all a whole lot more about what are the projects and how we can get people coordinated. And we're going to do a pilot next month with our first project, and we're all excited. We're looking for your efforts. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Let's move on to our interfaith dialogue, and I want to open that with Channing, and who has a poem to read to us, and then Will to lead the dialogue and break us.
Actually, Carolyn, could you just announce the question for the dialogue so that my reading ties
yes,
into that?
Our question is on racism and police brutality. How can we each promote change within our communities? Is the question of our interfaith dialogue. We thought that the small groups worked well. If we have time, we will come back and report back, and if not, we will take the top 3 points from each group, and I will for sure get it into the minutes in writing. So let's see how we do time-wise, but Channing had written a poem on this topic, so we're gonna open with her poem.
So good. This is not my original poem. This is someone else's poem, but I thought it was very relevant to our topic for dialogue today. I can't breathe, said George Floyd, the knee of 400 years of racism on his neck. I can't breathe, said the woman with fear in her eyes, her lungs attacked by coronavirus as she was put onto the ventilator. I can't breathe, said the nurse, exhausted after a long shift, sweating under a hot surgical mask and foggy goggles. I can't breathe, said the young man, poisoned by a toxic drug supply and generations of trauma and loss. I can't breathe, said the 100,000 dead Americans, a nation and a world. I can't breathe, said cities choked in smoke from a planet on fire. Breathe, my dear, said the Buddha of our time, reminding us of the way to love and healing and transformation. Breathe, my dear, said the beloved community, grieving and waking up together. Breathe, my dear, said Mother Earth, and let my oceans, mountains, and forests embrace you. Right now, when it seems so hard to just breathe. Right now, just breathe.
Thank you, Channing. Will, I want to turn it over to lead us on the small group discussion.
So we're going to break ourselves into 6 different rooms. That'll put 3 to 4 of us in each one of these rooms. And that question that you heard was in our agenda. I'm going to just put it in this chat room. For some reason, whenever we break into rooms, whatever you put in your chat room in your small group doesn't always make it to the recording. So if you can have one person in your group take some notes on either on paper or a separate part of, I'm sorry?
I just want your top 3 items.
Okay, so each group is trying to come up with 3 of their best ideas to answer that question. How can we each promote change within our communities, especially around racism and police brutality? If you can have one recorder, that would be good, but just know that if you put it into the chat, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to get it for our minutes. So please email Carolyn and me your notes from our meeting today, and we'll be breaking up into groups. And then we're going to give you 60 seconds to be able to come back from the groups for our final time together. And actually, maybe we need to do it now. Jennifer, did you want to share briefly what you wanted to share with us today, Jennifer Zetlin?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me, Will?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I haven't been to elected council for the last 2 months. In a surprise move, my son decided he would be moving back east, and as loving, caring panicked parents, we chose to move back here as well. So my family has relocated. We're on Cape Cod, pinch me now, and but it's so my participation naturally has been limited. I just so love hearing what's been going on with this group for the last 2 months. The leaps and bounds that you've grown into through this very difficult time is just remarkable. And you've transformed in 2 months like I never would have imagined. It's with great sadness I resigned, but still offer my strategic support if anybody wants it. But I am here in Cape Cod and not there. And it is a big grief to me to leave much of the work I've been doing with Beth Hyam, Peace Lutheran, and the elected council behind. I love so many people. And the work we've been doing with storytelling, we've been doing that for the last 2 years. And I do know, and I do want to share with the council that in addition to issues for survival, the need for people to heal through these political times and COVID times and police brutality times is immense. So please, please, please remember the souls of those people that we serve and their need for healing. I hate to say I can hardly get the words out my mouth that I resign.
Thank you, Jennifer. Blessings to you. We totally understand. Life goes on and we have to move at times and
be in
called
touch,
to a
though.
new place.
Stay in touch.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course. We talk on Zoom, right?
We can talk on Zoom. I may visit as well as an external visitor. I'm learning the ropes of what's going on out on the Cape.
Great.
There is a huge URI in Boston and also with Harvard University. And so, you know, who knows where we might grow or share, or maybe not. I just don't know. I've got so much to learn.
So we'll only say goodbye or so long for now, and we'll wait to see you next time.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
Would you mind giving Will your email address so that maybe
Or put it in the chat room for everyone so they can keep in touch. And Jennifer's email is in our email list if you just have to look through the numbers of folks there. So we're going to move into our breakout rooms for that conversation. Thanks so much, Jennifer, for sharing.
Will, can we do that till 9:45?
Till 9:45.
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Here we go.
Let's try.
We have a few folks still here.
Sending a text.
No worries. Are you going to join a group?
Yeah. I miss you guys so much.
Well, we totally understand. You be well.
There's Will.
There's Will.
Other.
Now we have to be productive.
Okay. Thank you. So we're talking on on brutality and on racism. And, you know, one of the things that hit me, and I haven't had time to look at it, Will, but when Nancy Beatty from our board sent us the thing on white fragility.
By Dr. Robin DiAngelo. It's a great book.
Is it? I'll have to order it. But it made me start to brainstorm on this need, you know, like we did with our Stopping Hatred, series. What is
Diffusing Hatred.
Diffusing Hatred, thank you. Maybe we need a similar kind of series on racism, on bigotry, on some kind of ingrained, you know, how do we all grow beyond this? You know, it's, I don't know, people are going to sign up for the 10-week course. No, but we played a real role there in teaching people about the different faith traditions and how to end that kind of bigotry. Could we play a role with, I don't want to call it just implicit bias, but on offering that kind of training for a higher level of sensitivity on racism?
We could go ahead, Terry.
Well, I was going to say that I would ditto that if you're up for that, Will, or partnering with some people to do that. One things that Temple Isaiah is doing is we're having a book group led by Rabbi Perlman next Friday, the 17th, on a book that we're reading on anti-racism. I don't know if you've heard of that yet, and I just downloaded it. And I'll have to get it for you. And White Fragility will be the next book that we read, but none of these are available in print, so they're all digital downloads, and I can't access it at the moment because I can't do multitask in that way, but I can send it to you. And I just started reading it, and it's really fascinating. And the guy has an unusual name I can't recall. I just can't conjure it up at the moment. But it's a really interesting combination of story and history, and making all these distinctions and definitions of anti-racism versus being a racist. And he makes these distinctions on policy versus your personal thing. And anyway, it's just a real eye-opener, and I'm looking forward to reading it and having a group discussion. I also have another group that I belong to within Temple Isaiah that we're going to form a book group discussion on that, and also on white fragility. And I think the biggest challenge is not knowing that you have it, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
Is it How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, that's it. Yes, that's it. That's what the cover looks like. Thank you. And and so Rabbi Perlman is running a book group on that next Friday, and we're all reading it. Not all, but we are reading it.
I mean, those are good efforts that I'm thinking that we could do maybe from I4C's point of view, you know, is offer some of these kind of, you know, the next level of, you know, we can all stand up and say we're not racist.
Well, I don't know if we need to create next level kinds of programming, because I think every congregation may be in their own place and having their own sacred conversation on race. My own congregation has come a long way in the last 4 or 5 years, but it was because we started having sacred conversations on race and really spending extra time in a World Cafe format, exploring different aspects of privilege. And we had our parish associate, Reverend Dr. Teresa Chavez Sauceda, used to do anti-racism training for the whole Presbyterian Church. And now that she lives here and is teaching at the seminary, she attends our congregation from time to time, and she's been an invaluable resource for us to have that conversation where we are. And I imagine that it's some of the smaller congregations that have less resources or time for their clergy person to lead those conversations that could be the biggest need in our county. So if we offered something online where folks, the individuals that may not be offered that in their own congregation, can do it together, that might be the way that we would want to do it. And then maybe offer something at a 201 level or something that, with the book White Fragility or the book Bias, which really looks at implicit bias in a greater way. But so much of this work is individual, and it's hard to just put together blanket kinds of programming, because you don't know who's going to be attracted to it and whether or not they're going to be at a similar enough level to be able to challenge each other in gentle ways. What do you think, Diane?
I think that's all good. I mean, I think starting at the small level of the church, and like our church, we have a book group. They have a book club, and so maybe one of their next books would be a anti-bias, or we have a Wednesday night, kind of a sacred night that Leslie teaches, and maybe she should turn that into a anti-racism book night, you know, by bringing this up to our communities. But I also think that, like, disseminating hatred, or the workshops you had are still valuable, obviously, but there also might be another way of how can our faith group be engaged with the police. I mean, we are already doing it somewhat because we have a homeless problem in our church, and so we're always engaging with the police in some manner. So, and but I think some sort of forum. I mean, even if it was,
those are good ideas. Community policing.
It just, or something where that we could say we obviously support you know, the police and what they do, but we need to grow and get those we need to get those programs moving ahead that help the juvenile hall, and we need those programs that'll help the people in the help people coming out of the jail system. For example, Restore One. I know that they're very fundamentalist church, but what they do is they have 5 homes. They have 5 homes in Contra Costa County, 3 of which are for men coming out of the jail system, and they help them with their drug and their and they have a home for them, and they start in a home where they absolutely do nothing but recover. The next home they recover, and they have to pay for their rent by doing something productive. And then they have a home in Concord for women drug problem, what is that called? Not AA, but
addiction recovery.
Thank you. And they encourage them to go to meetings, and even when these people go to meetings, sometimes these, like this one family, I don't know what it is. One family has the family, they support the women in this home, and the women have to go to their AA meetings. Well, sometimes they need daycare, and being able to support in these ways. There's just helping the social justice is what we need. It's what we're begging for. We're crying out for social justice, and we have to somehow help the police and help these departments that are so entrenched in their institution of thinking outside the box. And what can we do as a faith community? Help the people that are being
maybe it's inviting the police into discussions with us.
Yes, I think that would be so good. I mean, can you do you know there's that 60 Minutes did that big report on the German jail that let people go out and leave. They actually could go work, and then they'd come back, and then they actually got to be with their families, and it just changed the whole system. And then there was a man who in Michigan, I think it was Michigan, who saw this report and tried to change what he was doing. I think it has to come from the top. Maybe have a forum where we meet with these guys and say, we're here to help. Let's figure out something we can do together. Sort of like what we're doing with the community.
So the one request I had this week was a meeting with Krista Fairfield and Father Mangini from St. Bonaventure, and they've been in some conversations with the mayor and vice mayor of Concord, and they've Concord would love to see the faith community do something in their city to at least have a conversation around racism and how we bring in the conversation around police brutality and perhaps some of the needs for reform to make sure that we're covering some of the other social issues that are being brought up. We had a really good conversation about this at Soja yesterday about what does it mean to defund the police and what does it not mean, and how that that phrase is being misunderstood and how they're recreating. Well, it's yeah, but
not good.
but it's the language that comes out of the movement for Black Lives, and therefore people want to use the language that folks from that movement have been using.
Yeah, but if I have somebody show up with a gun at my house, I want some protection. You know, so
but that's
so
we're not going to take away
right?
taking away all of police. It's a recognition, when you read the articles about this, it's a recognition that we've asked the police to do too much, and that there are certain kinds of interactions between public safety officials and people with addiction or people living without shelter that they don't need someone with a gun in that interaction.
No, I get it all, and I just think we got to come up with some better terminology.
Yeah, because
people find this thought of defunding as so threatening, and it's re-envisioning.
But part of that is you have to break this systemic institutionalized racism that's in the whole criminal justice system, and I can understand why they're using the language as a way of demanding transformation to this system, because if you don't ask for more than what you need, you're not going to get what you need.
Well, the problem is that you know who is going to co-opt that language and use it again.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
That's not a problem right now.
But Diane, I would love to know if there are members of your congregation that would like to be on a planning meeting for whatever we're doing in Central County, most likely Concord, maybe even Todos Santos Plaza. I've set up a couple times for folks to see which meeting time works best. It's either next Tuesday. Is it next Tuesday? It's the 23rd, Tuesday the 23rd at 2:00, or Wednesday the 24th at 4:00. So those are the two. This is the planning meeting for trying to create some kind of large community-based event, even with social distancing, in a public place where we can start to have some sacred conversations on race here in the county.
I'm just to follow up on this whole coming up with some sort of an effort to coordinate or have a conversation with one or more police departments. I'm wondering if that would also be a Julius project. Where we
have to protect Julius from those conversations because he works within the probation department.
Okay, I don't know.
He can't be too public about too much.
Okay. But I just think there is a unique place for Interfaith to work with police in this way. So I agree. I don't know what that looks like, but I like that idea.
The hard part.
I think we need to invite them. We need to invite them.
Yeah, invite.
Or to just to say that here, come, you talk, and let us talk, and let us say these are some of
Maybe we can host forums.
But
there you go.
Maybe we can be the host. As the Interfaith Council, let's host police community dialogue on how to work better together.
Yeah, and Will, what was the time on Tuesday?
2 p.m.
If you send that out to me, I will send it to. I know that there are people at our church that would love to do that.
Okay.
Okay, so our 3 ideas, guys, are doing book clubs on anti-racism books or white fragility topics, training online on this, like we did with diffusing hatred, promoting community policing by setting up dialogue or acting as a host with police departments in the community for increased dialogue.
Yep, I've got those. Mine aren't as succinct. I have 6, but it's close enough.
But do they include a Concord public event that we would host?
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, I just didn't get down to that level of specifics, but if we could act. So one thing Interfaith Councils do is act as hosts for community meetings, and we could do that, and we could serve as facilitators to make sure that it stays nonviolent, to make sure it stays productive, and try and get people talking.
Okay, I'm going to bring us back.
Okay.
I'm going to bring us back.
Those are good ideas. Who's our spokesperson?
I think you have to re-unmute yourself as we come back.
And then let's get people to start to report out on their groups if we have time. It's going to be
Okay.
tight. But let's keep, Will, you want to do it? We'll keep it to 3 items and I'll try and, or Terry and I can try and record this.
Okay.
What we're doing.
Well, can't they just send their notes?
I would prefer that.
Yeah, I'd say let's do that. So have them send their notes.
It's awful hard any other way.
So I don't know why we only have 5 people back.
Okay.
They have 60 seconds to come back.
Oh, okay. They were
A
busy.
reminder that you have to unmute yourself as you come back if you want to share. If there's, we're going to ask that you share your written responses with Carolyn and me and Terry Moss if you can find our email addresses. And we'll put together all of the responses back into our in our minutes that will go out for everyone. But if you can share just the very top one of the 3, each group, let's see if we have enough time for each group to share their top suggestion so that we can at least hear that today.
Okay, that sounds good.
Robert Collins, are you, you want to report for your group?
Yes. How did you know I was the scribe?
You looked ready. You looked ready to report. And we'll go to Thea next.
Yeah, we actually came up with 3 ideas. One was an individual approach, and there's actually 2 parts to the individual, and then a structural approach. I'll highlight the structural approach, and that is to Pastor Dale from our group shared with us that the West Contra Costa County School Board has decided to, they voted last night to move the police officers off campus and redirect those resources into other areas where the students can be better served. They also shared with us about our responsibility to vote responsibly, to look at the issues, to see who's behind an issue, who is being served by that issue, who may be harmed by that issue, or who may be harmed by the person that is in office. Is this particular individual or measure that is being voted on bringing about unity, or is it deepening the harm? Within the individual, we talked about getting to know each other on a one-to-one basis, more of a heart-based dialogue. And Randy shared with us compassionate transformation. The 3 components of that is to be transparent, to be vulnerable, and to build a bond of trust. Those are our highlights.
Thanks, Reverend Robert. We'll look forward to having all of your notes for our next minutes. Thea Bristol-Broom.
Hi there. I was trying to capture those 3 little things. Would that speaker mind putting those last 3 things into chat? That would be lovely. So our group, we recognize also that the individual, change starts with the individual, but how the individual feels about change can really kind of impair real effective change from getting out into the world. And the most common reaction is fear. And so a way to combat fear is to seek out stories and listen, not to rebut, not to speak, not to do anything else, but just listen to witness other people's stories. And in the process, you're going to be confronted with things that scare you. And so pay attention to why you're afraid. Is this a rational reaction, or is this a knee-jerk reaction? Perhaps you don't deal with your own personal fears in life, and so you have no way of coping with other people's feelings and fears and emotions, and it's just overwhelming to you. In which case, that's a good thing to know about yourself, because it's important to take care of yourself. But if that causes you to isolate yourself and be in a bubble, one of the ways to get out of that is to go listen to people with empathy in your heart. And it's also very important to realize that the change agent that is most effective in the world doesn't just take in information, it gives out information. So if you choose to be a change agent, which I hope we all do, it's not just enough to take in information. You also need to be able to put it out there. And that means when you feel safe, standing up and talking about things, talking about your stories, if you have permission and you have an audience that's willing to listen, and also saying what you believe. And not in an offensive way or you should believe what I believe, but just saying what you believe. Because silence is violence. When we don't speak up, we are allowing people who hate to continue to believe that they think the way everybody does. So just a simple statement of, I don't believe that, can be a very positive thing to do in some situations.
Great words. Thank you, Thea. Other recorders from your small group, maybe if you can just raise your hand so I can see you, or who can go next from your small group? Just the recorder, your top issue that you wanted to share with the larger group.
This is Nancy.
Nancy, why don't you go?
Is it okay? Okay, our top three, there was a recent study done about how to reduce police brutality, and that if 8 points were followed, it would reduce police brutality 73%. And the study was done by city, and San Francisco has 8 out of the 8, which is amazing. And Walnut Creek has 2 out of the 8. And very, very, very few cities have more than 2 out of the 8. And they're rather simple. And I wish, I'll have to look it up to the
website I just put in the chat room for you, Nancy, is called 8 Can't Wait.
Thank you. Then I do have something else too. One idea expressed was really interesting. Gary suggested that that the Interfaith Council encouraged town hall meetings on police brutality and racism, and that the Interfaith Council possibly Will or Carolyn could offer to be the facilitator or the moderator of such a town hall meeting. And it was just suggested by city because there'll probably be a big turnout. And lastly, just working on white fragility and the need to understand ourselves what white privilege is and means, so that we can bring change. Our governor said it's us that have to change. The white people have to change. So.
Thank you, Nancy. I'll just mention that I put in a request to meet with the mayor and chief of police in Walnut Creek, where we've had more violence recently in the last year, especially against young men of color. Young black men have had more violence there than any other city in our county so far.
Wow. Thank you.
Other reports?
Rebecca?
Hi. So we have a list, but I will go quickly. We need to get to know people better, especially people who are different than each of us. We need to be willing to listen better. We need to serve arm in arm, which we talked about earlier. We need to be willing to be more educated and be willing to dialogue more, as well as be challenged. We need to include more individuals of people of color into our interfaith dialogue here at the council. We need to include younger generations into our council. We need to have meetings at times that the youth and working professionals can attend.
Thanks, Rebecca.
At these times, the youth are in school usually. So, but the movers and shakers in society tend to be the younger youth generation and a lot of the working professionals. That's
true. That comes up at our meetings on a regular basis, and we're still looking at different ways of trying to meet our diversity needs and our meeting time needs at the same time. Other voices? Did everyone meet Dale Weatherspoon? Reverend Dale Weatherspoon is pastor at Easter Hill United Methodist Church in Richmond. That's where Phil Lawson was the minister for so many years. So welcome, Dale.
Welcome, Dale.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Margaret, do you want to talk for our group?
Margaret.
Sure. So we heard the first. So I heard one idea of bringing us together and bringing the police department and people not from the police department into community and into brainstorming together and not an us and them kind of experience. Simultaneously, there was also an idea about that if we white people do our work and the Black and communities of color do their work, we can invite in strong ways the police departments to actually turn around and look inward and open up old cases of brutality or violence or misconduct and actually have some humility and deal with that, because I think it's about trust and listening. And I'm not sure, I think it's easier for white people to get excited to see cops kneeling and offering their hand than it is for communities of color who don't have that trust, who don't believe what they're hearing. And so I think if we as white people who have more power in this moment can encourage police departments to look inward and actually undo some of the things that they've done, then the trust for the communities of color could build. And also to talk to our city councils, all of them, all over the country, about shifting funding from police departments that are sometimes up to 50% or more to schools or other or health initiatives, to move that funding over there so schools actually have funding to hire counselors and de-escalation and social workers, because they don't have that money now. Get the cops out of the schools and switch that ratio, so police officers aren't being asked to do every single thing in the community, which they can't do well. So please, someone in our group who feels that I haven't spoken what they spoke, please say something.
I think you summarized it well. And when we get to internally examining ourselves and getting the police to internally examine them and hear the abject terror that's coming from the people of color in our community so that we can better listen to and understand them, then maybe we can address the issue that you raised as the last point, and the reform versus disbanding. I mean, it's scary when some of these terms are used, but really what we're talking about is shifting responsibilities. The police are doing 10% crime control and 90% many other things that they're getting funding for, and the funding should be going to the agencies that Margaret is referring to. And that's where we ought to have some dialogue once we have understood each other and understand ourselves, where we're coming from too, and our implicit bias. So I suppose that means we should also return as soon as we can, Will, to our implicit bias training.
Yeah, we need to finish up that training. That's right. Do we have any other reports from our small groups, or was that all
Terry,
six?
you want to report out on our group?
Terry Moss.
Okay, I've been busy taking notes.
Well, I can do it real quick if you want. I think one of the big things we thought about was a training course for that I foresee maybe could sponsor to our congregations and to our community, whether it's online or eventually in person, courses that, whether it's white fragility or on anti-racism, even book clubs where we can study these books and try and understand better how we can approach that. We also had the idea of sponsoring, I foresee sponsoring police and community forums for dialogue. That would be a good role for us. Okay.
So thanks for all of our report outs. I want to just point out that both this meeting and the Meaningful Mondays meetings have a new password. There's a new link. And once you've registered, it sends you a link for this and every other future elected council meeting, and it was a different registration that gave you a link for the Meaningful Mondays. And so I don't think that the registration email got put into the email for this group, so I'm going to send it out for our Meaningful Mondays. I've been talking about Reverend Barber quite a bit. He's the founder of the Moral Monday movement and the Poor People's Campaign. So sorry about that. Meaningful Mondays, you have to register, and then it'll give you a link. Save the link, maybe copy these into a Word document that you can leave on your computer's desktop or a note app that allows you to find those references so that you can come back. And I see a hand from Thea.
Hey, thanks so much. I wanted to invite Erica Baines, who was in my small group, to share with us in chat, if you would, the name of that book. And I'd like to make it be the first suggestion for a book club reading. It sounded fascinating. Erica was recommending something by Reverend Valerie Miles, I believe.
What's the title of it, Erica?
So it's Change Agent, Church in Black Lives Matter Times. Valerie Miles and I have been on the same social justice change agent action group for the last 12 years. And we worked on many different, divided we fall issues and lectures. She's actually a professor at GTU. Also, I don't know what it's called because I'm not, don't understand churches as well. But she is the head of the Baptist Reverend and then also Presbyterian. She's the second for the Oakland. So she's basically well-known African-American from Atlanta, has witnessed a lot of police brutality, all kinds of abuse. So this book is going to be released, believe it or not, on the 15th. And what we are seeing on the streets have been on our dinner table discussions for the last 4 years. So it's pretty interesting how right after her book was scheduled to be released, all of this is going on, but nothing that our change agent group did not anticipate.
And what's her name again?
It's Reverend Valerie Miles Tribble. So VA. So Will, I actually sent that to you in your email.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
if this would be, this is an amazing book. I've sort of been part of chapters as they were written, and it's basically about churches changing the way they lead. And because the cops go to, police go to churches, they educate through churches, the children do, the whites do, the African Americans do, everybody does. So it's a place where we can actually, if we change the dialogues there, maybe as a whole society we can change. So it's a very interesting read, and a lot of thought has gone into it.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. We want to thank the number of folks that helped us prepare and do a Black Lives Are Sacred event online. I want to remind folks that the same link that was the live stream is where the recording is for that event, and it's like a Box Cable TV link. So you can still find that on the website, and the recording is there. Please, I'm referring this to congregations to use as the first kind of conversation that they can have, because it includes so many of our local religious leaders and their responses to what's going on around the country. And if it might be a good entree if you want to share it with a group in your congregation and then have a conversation about it. And then maybe you can try out one of these other books, White Fragility, Bias, as well as the book that Dr. Baines just mentioned.
Will, I just want to thank you and everybody for the service. It was really an incredible
nicely done
presentation in such a short time, and very meaningful. And good luck finding White Fragility. It is out of stock almost everywhere, including from the author's website. So
you can get it on Audible.
Yes, you can get it. Yeah, you can get
it electronically.
Also on digital.
Could I just add one quick thing that I'm going to send Carolyn and Will to send out to all of you a list that I got last night about what protesting has accomplished so far. It's 2¼ pages of single space, very specific things, positive things that have happened. And I think you'd be interested. So I'll do that.
Thanks. And Nancy also shared a study guide to the book of White Fragility. If you'd like to have that, we can share that electronically as well, if you want to do that. Celia, I think I heard your voice there. Did you have something to share?
I do, thank you.
Celia is going to close us shortly here. Rebecca, we are a few minutes overdue, so let's finish up. Yes, Rebecca.
I just want to say, I know the Red Cross is in critical need of blood. Our church just ran 2 interfaith blood drives, but I know they're still in need, and we're running another one on July 1st. I'll send you guys a flyer, but I know it's huge need right now.
And there is a blood drive at Temple Isaiah today until 4 o'clock. You might just call and see if there's a space open before going.
I wanted to remind everybody that we do not have an elected council meeting in July, that is a month we skip. But that doesn't mean that we're not still really working, and we have a lot going on. So we do look for your email, your e-blast. We are going to be telling you about a lot of things and still doing the work. Celia, can you close us? Or Channing, yes.
Oh, just a quick question. Will, I had sent out a message yesterday to the elected council with a form on submitting stories for the Open Hearts column. And I know I forgot to put in when would that be due to you? When is the next newsletter being published?
Good question.
We do them quarterly, so if you can get that in the next month, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, that would be, so in this interim
It
time.
goes out. Yeah, actually, we need them in the next couple weeks.
Well, that's too soon. I thought you were publishing it every 3 months.
Yes, we are.
And we were behind because of all of the other things, but yeah, we'll probably try to get this out in the 1st of August. So let's say July 15th is a deadline to submit stories for you.
Okay, well, everybody submits them to me, and then I will review them, and also I have to send out a permission slip to everybody in terms of their being published, so yeah.
Can I ask Celia to close us?
Yes. I'd like to read a very old prayer. It's called Tefillat Haderech. It's a Hebrew prayer. It's the prayer for travelers, whether you travel to a physical destination or as you journey through life. May it be your will, Lord our God and God of our fathers, to lead us in peace and direct our steps in peace, to support us in peace, and to bring us to our destination for life, joy, and peace. Deliver us from the hands of every enemy or lurking foe, and from all kinds of calamities that may come to and afflict the world, and bestow blessings upon all our actions. Grant us the grace, kindness, and mercy in your eyes, and in the eyes of all who behold us, and bestow bountiful kindness upon us. Hear the voice of our prayer, for you hear everyone's prayer. Blessed are you, Lord, who hears prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia. And thank you, everyone, for participating and giving your input. And we are really going to work on these topics, and I'm so glad to have you all helping. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you for
Blessed
a great
be.
meeting.
Stay
Thank
well.
you, everybody.
Bye. Take well.
Wonderful.
Take care, all.
Amen.